WNBA are not going to be happy with this. That's all I'm going to say. They are absolutely positively not going to be happy with this right here. If you guys don't know, obviously Caitlin Clark is what you call it. She is in the she's going to be in the WNBA as part of a now the executive producer for NBC Sports has basically said, yeah, there's no more relevant player. And it's never going to stop. Caitlin Clark could win 10 rings and they're still going to complain about her not winning in high school. Like, Caitlin Clark is, the most relevant person in basketball. No, that's racist. And I do think that the likelihood of Caitlin Clark, if the WNBA season doesn't happen.
The room felt different after they said it. Not shocked exactly. Not even surprised, really. It was more like a collective, quiet flinch, the kind you make when someone finally says the quiet part out loud in a room where everyone had agreed, silently, to keep dancing around it. The WNBA, you see, is not going to be happy with this. That's all I'm going to say. They are absolutely, positively not going to be happy with this right here. If you haven't been following the undercurrents, the subtle tectonic shifts in the landscape of women's sports, let me frame this for you. Caitlin Clark, the name itself, is now a seismic event. A cultural phenomenon wrapped in a jersey is entering the WNBA. But this isn't just another talented rookie. This is something the sport hasn't seen before. A force that operates on a different plane of public consciousness. And now, a major player has drawn.
Everyone has to be equal. And this is what NBC have said. There is no more iconic figure in basketball, in women's game right now, or the game in general, about Caitlin Clark. In the game in general, that's all I gotta say is that that is
on a new map, one that changes the coordinates for everyone. The moment happened on an NBA-facing platform. The executive producer for NBC Sports, a network with billions in rights fees and a corporate vocabulary built on caution, didn't just offer a compliment. He planted a flag. In a statement that was deliberate, unhedged, and broadcast to a mainstream, cross-gender sports audience, he framed Caitlin Clark not merely as a rising star in the WNBA, but as the most iconic figure in basketball. Period. Full stop. Not in the women's game. In the game. The entire sport. Let that syntax land. The most iconic figure in basketball. It's an absolute statement. The kind networks with research departments and legal teams and messaging discipline almost never utter, unless the data gives them no other choice.
Alyssa Thomas was the reason why people are watching. And by the way, it's not even, people are like, oh, it was the finals about Alyssa Thomas. No. They literally said it wasn't just the playoffs, but our regular season broke records as fans went to watch Alyssa Thomas. Like, that is a statement. That is a statement the WNBA had put out. I have to say, that is a statement that they had put out to say that fans came to watch Alyssa Thomas instead of Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese, even if you wanted to say.
It does two things simultaneously, each one more destabilizing to the established order than the last. First, it lifts Caitlin Clark into a tier any sport rarely confers in real time. We anoint legends in retrospect, after retirement speeches and trophy-laden montages. We call them icons once their impact is safely historical. To do so for a player who hasn't yet logged a single professional minute is to break protocol. It's to operate on a different axis entirely, the axis of pure, undiluted, market-driving attention. Second, and far more critically, it quietly tells the audience, the casual fan, the advertiser, the programmer, that the biggest gravitational pull in the game, the single strongest magnet for eyeballs and engagement, is currently emanating from the league that has, for decades, been relegated to the margins, treated as an afterthought. And also, the WNBA has spent 27 years building a foundation on parity, collective growth.
They're not seen as problematic in the league, but now the executive producer for NBC Sports has basically said, yeah, there's no more relevant player, not only in the women's game. And this should be the biggest duh for the WNBA and the biggest W, that they have basically just said that a player in their league is now, in fact, the most iconic figure in basketball. This is on an NBA post.
And shared sacrifice. The narrative, meticulously curated, has been one of "we rise together." And now here comes NBC, a major broadcast partner with real skin in the game, and says, in effect, there is a sun, and here are the planets. That is why the reaction matters. It's not about whether Caitlin Clark is talented. That's a given. It's not even about whether she's the most popular player. That's become evident. It's about the fundamental collision between two models of sports business. One built on equitable distribution of narrative, and one built on following the undeniable, concentrated energy of stardom wherever it leads. Watch the body language when this topic comes up in league circles. The pause that's a beat too long. The tight, practiced smile that doesn't reach the eyes. The split-second glance away, as if searching for the correct, pre-approved talking point. People keep calling the league's excitement about...
But at the end of the day, it's what you call it. It's an obvious statement, but they're not going to be happy. You just know it. Like, people are not going to be happy, basically, with, instead of where people should be happy being like, oh my God, people are actually saying that about it.
Clark's arrival genuine, and much of it is. But beneath that, there's a palpable vibration of management, of a tension between immense gratitude for the spotlight she brings and deep anxiety over who controls its beam. The core issue is that NBC's declaration was not a casual, hyperbolic bit of praise. It was a hierarchy statement delivered in a landscape where the official doctrine is that everyone must be equal. The WNBA wants Caitlin Clark to be a times star inside the system, a brilliant addition to a constellation of talent. What they are visibly uneasy with is Caitlin Clark becoming the star, whose luminosity is so intense it risks making the system itself and every other star within it look smaller by comparison. They want the growth to feel collective, not concentrated. They want every team, every market, every veteran who has grinded for years for recognition, every emerging storyline to share the spotlight equally, so the league looks durable, resilient, and not dependent on any single individual holding up the entire roof. This instinct was on full display throughout the 2024 collegiate season and into the draft, as Clark Mania reached a fever pitch, shattering viewership records for women's basketball. The league's official messaging often performed a delicate, deliberate balancing act. Yes, Clark was phenomenal, but look at this compelling rivalry with Angel Reese. Yes, Iowa drew millions, but remember the excellence of USC and Juju Watkins. Yes, the draft was historic, but let's celebrate the depth of this entire class. The subtext was a persistent, gentle correction. Do not let the audience believe this is a one-woman economy. We saw it in the aftermath of the postseason, too. Instead of leaning into the obvious, singular storyline of Clark's record-smashing impact, the communication strategy often widened the lens. Other names were elevated. Other explanations for the surge in attendance and ratings were offered. It was as if the league was engaging in a form of narrative prophylaxis, inoculating the public against the idea that the phenomenon had a single, identifiable center.
And it's never going to stop. Caitlin Clark could win 10 rings and they're still going to complain about her not winning in high school. Like, I just mean it where it's like, these people, none of this is relevant to anything. Like, it is funny in terms of the relevancy. Like, the players have been offered amounts of money that they dreamed of getting. And are calling it slaps in the face. They're getting the coverage that they've always wanted to get. And
this is why NBC's comment is such a profound problem for that internal framework. Because NBC is not a debate show host chasing a viral clip. It is not a blogger trading in hot takes. It is a broadcast partner with hundreds of millions of dollars in investment, with real research teams parsing minute-by-minute ratings, with algorithms mapping social engagement curves, and with one overriding imperative: to identify and leverage what makes people show up. When someone at that level makes a blunt, unqualified declaration on a platform designed for the NBA audience, the most coveted, mainstream sports audience in America, it is not fandom. It is positioning. It is a signal to advertisers, to sponsors, to affiliates, and to casual viewers about where the attention actually lives, where the cultural currency is being minted. The networks know. They have the dashboards the public never sees. They know which game windows spike, which players move the needle on streaming carryover, which highlights convert casual scrollers into live viewers. So when NBC frames Caitlin Clark in this singular, top-of-the-mountain language, they are making a business statement backed by cold, hard metrics. The kind of statement that makes executives in boardrooms nod in agreement, that shapes how marketing budgets are allocated and how promotional campaigns are cut. And the tone matters. There was no hedging. No, one of the most. No, arguably. No careful phrasing about sharing the stage.
The Fever are better without Caitlin Clark is one that was used by commentators. Like, to be fair, at least no one's gone full Cheryl Swoops. The fact Elle Duncan apologizing to Cheryl Swoops is still one of the craziest things. So basically, Elle Duncan said that Cheryl Swoops said Katie Lou Samuelson was more important to the Fever than Caitlin Clark. And that's what Elle Duncan reported.
It was definitive, confident, and public. That confidence tells you they believe the numbers protect them from backlash. It tells you they've seen the future in their data, and her name is at the center of it. This creates a stark disconnect. In almost any other sports league, a statement like this from a major partner would trigger a victory lap of epic proportions. If ESPN had said this about LeBron James in 2010, or about Patrick Mahomes in 2020, the NFL or NBA would have packaged that clip and run it on a loop. They would have built entire advertising campaigns around it. They would have plastered that player's face on every available channel, understanding that a singular, marketable star is not a threat to the league's health, it's the engine of its growth. The business of sports entertainment has always worked that way. Stars are the entry point, the gateway drug that leads fans to appreciate role players, systems, and the beauty of the collective game. But the WNBA's instinct, born from a long history of fighting for scraps of coverage and a cultural mandate to uplift the whole, has been different. The league has often treated Caitlin Clark's otherworldly star power as something to be managed, rather than something to be crowned. Not because they don't see its immense value, but because they are deeply concerned with controlling.
Swoops is actually, in fact, they're at fault, and that, Cheryl Swoops didn't say, basically Cheryl Swoops can do no wrong when she slightly misquoted. She it was a whole apology and then went to bat for Cheryl Swoops when the sentiment of why the Cheryl Swoops statement was crazy, it was true. That she was saying nonsense shit about Caitlin Clark.
How that value accrues. They want the benefit of her presence, the sold-out arenas, the national TV ratings, the sponsorship interest without the optics of dependence. They want the surge without the narrative that the league's newfound relevance is anchored to one name. And that is the tension sitting underneath every conversation, every press release, every scheduling decision. The WNBA has cultivated a culture that emphasizes parity, respect for veterans, and shared recognition. The ethos is that the product is the product, and the league should not be reduced to a single personality. In a locker room sense, this mindset is not only understandable, but commendable. It fosters unity. In a brand-building, market-conquering sense, however, it is a perilous bet, because fans, especially casual ones, do not fall in love with philosophies or equitable distribution of coverage. They fall in love with stories, with rivalries, with faces. Stars are how a casual audience learns the map of a league. Networks and sponsors understand this because they live and die by attention and association. A corporate partner isn't buying balance. They're buying reach. They're buying cultural presence. They're buying the ability to put a face on a billboard and have millions of strangers instantly know who it is. So when NBC speaks in that blunt, top-of-the-mountain language, it isn't disrespecting the rest of the WNBA. It is simply doing what broadcasters have always done, identifying the clearest, most powerful marketing engine and turning it into a headline. The WNBA's discomfort, therefore, isn't really about whether Caitlin Clark is a star. It's about what happens if everyone, the media, the sponsors, the casual fans, agrees she is the main event. Because once that becomes the accepted...
I actually don't know what's going to happen if the WNBA season doesn't happen. I mean that. I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't know what they're going to do, because if the W season doesn't happen...
Market-validated reality. Every other decision gets judged through that lens. Every primetime schedule slot, every choice of nationally televised game, Every promotional campaign, every quote from a coach or executive is scrutinized. The league loses the delicate fiction that attention and interest are evenly distributed. It forces them to openly prioritize, and in prioritizing, they fear they will alienate the very foundation of players and fans who have supported the league through leaner times. This collision between the language of business and the language of principle found perhaps its purest expression in the Sheryl Swoopes incident. That episode was never really about a simple misquote. It was a case study in how quickly the league's discourse can shift away from substantive basketball analysis and toward protecting a specific posture. Here's what happened in plain terms. A media report circulated stating that Hall of Famer Sheryl Swoopes had said that player Katie Lou Samuelson was more important to the Indiana Fever than Caitlin Clark. Swoopes, a respected legend, quickly pushed back. She clarified that she had never said more important, but that her point was Samuelson was equally important to the team's success. What followed was telling. The energy in the media ecosystem didn't flow toward examining the basketball merits of such a comparison. Instead, it flowed overwhelmingly toward defending Swoopes' intent, defending the principle of her take, and treating any backlash as irrational or disrespectful to a pioneer. The slight semantic difference between more and equal became the entire headline, while the underlying, rather astounding basketball opinion that a role player and a transcendental talent who was the entire offensive system carried the same value was left largely unchallenged. That environment is revealing, to argue, in a basketball sense, that Caitlin Clark and Katie Lou Samuelson held comparable value for the 2024 Indiana Fever isn't a mild disagreement. It's a distortion of observable reality. Samuelson, a capable veteran, had a specific, limited role. Clark was the offense. She was the primary scorer, the playmaker, the defensive focal point for every opponent, the reason for sold-out crowds and national TV slots. Their responsibilities and impacts were orders of magnitude apart. Yet, in that moment, pushing back on the equal framing was treated in many circles as the real offense, as if acknowledging the obvious, immense disparity in impact was somehow doing a disservice to the league or to the ideal of teamwork. The pattern was laid bare. The discourse had become so committed to avoiding a single-star narrative that it began rewarding framing over facts, protecting the idea of balance even when the numbers, the highlights, and the sheer economic activity were screaming that one player was the engine. It is against this backdrop that NBC's statement detonates. NBC just walked into a carefully managed narrative space and said the quiet part out loud. And saying it out loud triggers defenses not because the statement is inaccurate from a market perspective, but because it fundamentally threatens the preferred, internally sanctioned storyline. The preferred storyline says, the league is rising as a collective. The NBC statement says, one person is pulling the whole sport into rooms it has never been allowed to enter before. Now, we must take this a critical step further, because this is no longer just a war of narratives or a debate about media framing. The stakes have been raised to a frightening, tangible level. The labor situation is real, it is tense, and it is already casting a long shadow over the league's historic momentum. The Players' Union opted out of the previous collective bargaining agreement. That deal officially expired on October 31st, 2025. As we move deeper into early 2026, there is still no new agreement in place. The whispers in league circles have grown from a murmur to a steady, concerning hum. The word nobody wants to say out loud, but everyone is thinking, lockout. If negotiations remain stalled, the season directly in the crosshairs is the landmark 30th anniversary season, scheduled to tip off on May 8th. A delayed start is damaging. A season in limbo, or worse, canceled, would be catastrophic. This creates a brutal reality for the vast majority of players. Their careers are short. Their peak earning windows are narrow. They would scatter to overseas leagues, piecing together income, trying to stay sharp, hoping the spotlight and the financial gains of this recent surge would still be there when or if they return. But for Caitlin Clark, the calculus of a lost season is existentially different. Her value is not merely contractual or even strictly about her on-court production. Her value is that she is a cultural event happening in real time, in American arenas, in domestic primetime windows, inside the daily churn of the mainstream sports conversation. She is a moment, and moments are fragile. Remove that context, the nightly highlights, the weekly storylines, the constant buzz for 6 months or a year, and you don't just pause a season, you pause momentum. You allow the unprecedented connection she has forged with a casual audience to cool, to be replaced by the next shiny thing. Be honest about how this works. Overseas leagues have featured elite WNBA talent for decades, yet most casual American sports fans have never followed those leagues week to week. The time zones are prohibitive. The access is inconsistent. The cultural conversation simply does not travel cleanly across oceans. The player might still be great, but the moment gets quieter, relegated to niche status once more. This looming possibility is precisely what makes NBC's behavior so strategically coherent. Their statement is not merely celebratory, it is also a form of corporate hedging against uncertainty. If the WNBA calendar fractures, NBC still needs a way to keep their most bankable basketball asset, Caitlin Clark, visible, relevant, and attached to their audience. They have already invested in her as a ratings driver. By positioning her as the most iconic figure in basketball, they are building her into a pillar of their overall basketball identity, not just a temporary guest star during the WNBA season. Think about it. If the WNBA shuts down, NBC could still feature Clark on their airwaves, as a studio analyst breaking down NBA playoffs, as the centerpiece of documentary features, as a guest on talk shows. They keep her in the weekly sports routine. They keep the audience relationship warm. They keep the story alive, even if the league she plays in goes dark. It's brilliant, self-interested business, but it also exposes the raw nerve of the underlying tension. It suggests that a major partner already sees Caitlin Clark more clearly as a standalone, cross-platform asset than the league she plays in seems comfortable admitting. The controversy, then, isn't the praise. The controversy is the deep-seated discomfort it reveals. It's the feeling that the league's apparatus would prefer to manage her stardom, to temper it, to contextualize it, rather than to pour jet fuel on it and see how high it can fly, as if acknowledging a singular, overwhelming gravity automatically diminishes the worth of every other planet in the solar system. But history teaches us that this is not how sports leagues become global powerhouses. The NBA's modern era was built on the backs of singular, era-defining stars. The league didn't shy away from Michael Jordan's global dominance. It rode that rocket ship to new universes of popularity and profit. Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Stephen Curry each became the unambiguous face of the league for a time, and the rising tide lifted all boats. Role players gained fame, systems gained notoriety, and the financial pie expanded exponentially because the star brought new eaters to the table. The NFL operates on the same quarterback-centric principle. Patrick Mahomes is the face. He moves the needle, and the needle moves money. This is the existential crossroads the WNBA now faces. They have been handed a generational gift, a player so magnetic that a mainstream broadcast partner on a platform built for the NBA is willing to anoint her the center of the basketball universe. This is the kind of star power commissioners dream of. And instead of building an entire marketing, scheduling, and storytelling architecture around that reality, the league's instinct often seems to be one of hesitation, of looking for ways to acknowledge the reality without upsetting the established ecosystem's sense of equitable standing. That approach sounds noble. It feels fair. But it is not how you capture and capitalize on a cultural moment. Cultural moments are volatile and fleeting. They do not wait for perfect, consensus-driven messaging. You cannot successfully run two contradictory models at once. You cannot be the league that insists the spotlight must be evenly distributed at all times, and also be the league that knows a blinding, singular spotlight is what finally punches a hole in the ceiling for everyone. At some point, you have to choose a primary strategy, because the market, the advertisers, the networks, the fans will choose for you. And they are choosing right now. What makes NBC's statement even heavier is its specific context. This wasn't, she's the biggest thing in the WNBA. It was, she is the most iconic figure in basketball. stated during NBA coverage. This automatically, intentionally, places Caitlin Clark in the same conceptual tier as LeBron James, Stephen Curry, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. It implies that, in terms of current cultural impact and attention pull, she operates in their stratosphere, if not above it. This is not a women's sports story. This is a sports story. It's a cold, business-minded assessment of who moves the needle in 2026. The WNBA's logical, growth-minded response should be one of strategic jubilation. They should be amplifying this statement on their own channels, coordinating with NBC to build month-long promotional campaigns, leveraging this external validation to secure more primetime slots, more mainstream crossover opportunities, more narrative investment that makes casual fans feel they are missing a central chapter in sports history if they aren't watching. Yet, the instinct we often see feels more like caution, like internal recalibration, like the fear of the narrative escaping their control. But while the league tries to thread this impossible needle, the window of maximum public curiosity does not stay open forever. People are sampling the product now. They are paying attention now. This is the league's Sputnik moment. And the question it can no longer avoid is stark. Are you going to build the entire mission around the star you have, or are you going to keep trying to pretend the moment belongs to everyone equally, while the moment itself quietly passes you by? So, here is the uncomfortable, binary choice that now sits in front of the WNBA's leadership. Do they want to be morally and philosophically consistent to their long-held ethos of equality, or do they want to win the relentless, ruthless attention economy? Right now, their actions suggest they believe these goals are in direct conflict, and they are choosing the safer, more controlled stance, even when that stance may be costing them maximum momentum. NBC just handed them a rare, powerful gift. This wasn't flattery. It was a market signal. A mainstream partner told the world, on the biggest stage, that the most powerful draw in basketball is a WNBA player. The growth-minded playbook is simple. Appreciate it, amplify it, build on it. Do not retreat into defensiveness. Do not immediately pivot to reminding everyone that other players are important too. Do not scramble to soften the edges so no one feels slighted. You can profoundly respect the legacy of the Diana Taurasi's, the Sue Birds, the Breanna Stewarts, and the Aja Wilsons, the players who built the bridge, and still understand what the market is screaming about the player who is driving the traffic across it. Both things can be true, but only one of them builds a durable, financially transformative business model in the short term. Long-term stability isn't created by insisting every player is perceived identically. It's created by using a transcendent figure as a blazing entry point. And then, once fans are inside the arena, expanding their world, you show them the genius of Alyssa Thomas's triple-double prowess. You highlight the defensive artistry of Brittany Sykes. You build the rivalries, narrate the journeys, and monetize the entire ecosystem that the star's light has now illuminated. That is how you turn a viral moment into a sustainable movement. I will leave you with this final breakdown. Is NBC right to label Caitlin Clark the most iconic figure in basketball based on pure cultural impact, attention velocity, and mainstream pull in this precise snapshot of time? Or does that framing disrespect the sustained greatness of NBA legends and unfairly minimize the WNBA veterans who have been the bedrock of the league for a generation? And the bigger, more consequential question: should the WNBA strategically lean into having a once-in-a-generation star and treat her as their most valuable strategic advantage? Or should they continue to prioritize an equality-first narrative, even if that narrative may artificially cap their growth ceiling at the very moment they have a chance to shatter it? Because this debate is no longer about whether Caitlin Clark is great. That case is closed. This is now an argument about whether the WNBA as an institution is willing to accept, and more importantly, act upon, what the marketplace through its most powerful messengers is already declaring. NBC did not create this moment. Caitlin Clark, through her sheer audacity and skill, did. NBC merely confirmed it, publicly, in the most unforgiving arena possible. The NBA conversation, where compliments are not given lightly and hyperbole is quickly punished by reality. The league can treat that confirmation as a threat to its internal culture, or it can treat it as the greatest leverage it has ever possessed. If they lean into it, they don't erase anyone. They use the spotlight to create new stars, to finance better conditions for all players, to build bigger stages for every team. They turn first-time viewers into lifelong fans. They build habits. They build tradition. They build wealth. If they keep resisting, if they keep trying to sand down the edges of this singular phenomenon in the name of a collectivist ideal, they risk missing the most fundamental truth in entertainment. Fans do not follow principles. Fans follow people. They follow magic. They follow moments. And right now, the door to a new era is wide open. The casual audience is finally looking in, not out of obligation, but out of genuine desire. The only question remaining is whether the WNBA will step through that door, embrace the dazzling, messy, uneven reality of a star-driven universe, and own the era that is being offered to them, or whether they will hesitate, calibrate, and deliberate until the world, ever hungry for the next big thing, simply moves on. Pay attention not to the press releases, but to the choices, to the 2026 schedule, to the marketing campaigns in the coming months, to the way partners are leveraged, to the tone of the discourse from the league office. Those actions will tell you everything. They will reveal whether this league is finally ready to be successful on the market's terms, or whether it would still rather be comfortable on its own. The moment is here. The star is here. The market has spoken. The ball is now in the league's court. What happens next will define the next 30 years.